That was 10 months ago we had that meeting, Dennis. I got all the notes, I
Okay.
wrote down.
He will follow up in the next meeting, I promise.
Oh,
Maybe not at a future meeting, maybe 2 or 4
Right.
weeks.
All right.
And then regularly after that.
Who's that on the left?
Good afternoon, all.
She's on.
Tiff, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Perfect.
GIS.
We good?
You guys sound good.
I wish we looked as good. Well, not Naomi.
We're good? Stuart?
1 minute. Dave, you got,
I got a long prayer, so.
I can see that in like 9 words. Tell me you memorized it, I'll really be impressed.
I memorized about 100 phone numbers. Believe me.
There's Mike and Blake.
Mine looked like he had a beer.
Hey, Mike, Blake.
How's it going?
Hi, thanks. How are you?
Good, good.
It's good to be back in the room. Oh, why can't I?
I got my second shot last week.
Is that Mike?
So I got my second shot last week, so I'm good, hopefully here.
Good, you should be in attendance at the next meeting then.
That's right. I will be.
Yeah, I'm just 2 weeks past my second shot, so
Okay,
happy to be here.
so we're up.
Welcome to the May 10th, 2021 meeting of the Sandusky City Commission. Prior to tonight's meeting, we'll have an invocation offered by Commissioner Waddington, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
God our Father, as we gather for this meeting this evening, give us the guidance and wisdom to make the proper decisions. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think I'm first this week.
Ms. Briggs, will you call the roll?
Where'd she go?
Yes, Mr. President. Sorry, I was pulling up the consent agenda. Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr.
Here.
Murray?
Here.
Mr. Brady?
Here.
Ms. Twine?
Here,
Mr. Meinzer?
Here.
Commissioners, you have before you the minutes of our meeting of April 26, 2021. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I move that we accept the minutes of the April 26th meeting and dispense with the formal reading.
second.
It's been a motion and a second. Without objection, motion will be approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved. Ms. Briggs, are there any questions from the public that pertain to tonight's agenda?
President Brady, we do not have any questions for tonight's agenda.
Oh, excellent. Once again, we're holding the Sandusky City Commission meeting electronically and in person. Commissioners and staff are in attendance through internet hookups and a variety of safe locations. I would like to add that the 5 of us that are in attendance have all shared with each other that we have all received first and second vaccination shots. So we feel that we are in the clear at the moment. We've asked our audience to either submit their questions or their comments in writing to the commission clerk, and we'll answer those that pertain to legislation as that legislation comes before us tonight. I would also like to acknowledge the fact that those that are here are wearing masks of their own volition. I don't believe that that is a requirement any longer, but we want everyone here to feel safe and to feel comfortable, so that is a personal decision. First thing on our agenda tonight is a presentation on park amenities application by our GIS analyst, Tiffany Rufo. Ms. Rufo, I can see you at your desk, so I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Commission President Brady. I'm going to share my screen here so everybody can see the app. There we are. If you could just let me know when you can see it.
We got it.
All right, fantastic. So, Commission President, Commissioners, residents, and fellow staff, at the behest of Director Klein, I'd like to briefly introduce you to our newest public-facing app, the Sandusky Parks Explorer. It's going to easily be accessible on our website. It's an app for residents and for visitors to explore and find amenities throughout our city in our parks. So for example, if we zoom in here over to Lions Park, you're going to start to see little icons pop up, and we can see all of the amenities located at this park. When you click around, it will tell you what you're looking at. Like a seesaw here, locations of grills. And for the shelters, if you click on them, you'll be able to see the capacity, whether they're ADA accessible, and a link to our recreation department's website where you can actually reserve that shelter. One of the other functions of this map is our search feature. So if you have young kids and they particularly like slides, you can search for slides, and it will give you a list of all of our parks that have slides. And as you click through, you can find which one's closest to your location. Is my very brief presentation and introduction to our Parks Explorer. I'd be happy to take any of your questions.
Commissioners, comments or questions for Ms. Rufo? I can share with you that a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Klein shared with me that this application was going to be presented tonight, and I can tell you that this is just one more effort on staff's part, I think, to tug this city further into the 21st century. We are blessed to have people like Ms. Rufo on board that can put programs like this together. I think it makes it easier for residents, certainly makes it easier for parents, for grandparents to find out where a slide's available, where the specific equipment is, whether it's handicapped equipment and slides, or it just prevents a lot of searching around throughout the city. So it is just one more additional amenity that we add to our cachet, so to speak, and make those kind of things available to the residents of our city. Thank you, Ms. Rufo, for doing this. You are a quietly unsung person in our staff. I heard a commissioner mention just a few minutes before we went live, who is that person on the screen? So now we all know who you are.
Thank you very much, Commissioner President.
Additional comments, commissioners? Thank you, Ms. Rufo. Commissioners, you have before you several communication from staff recommending various legislation. Can I have a motion to accept these communications?
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and second discussion. Without objection, that motion will be approved, and hearing no objection, that motion is approved. We have 4 consent items to consider this evening. Do any of you wish to move any of those items on the consent agenda to the regular agenda? Ms. Spriggs, will you present the consent agenda?
Absolutely. Commission President Brady, up on your screen is tonight's consent agenda. Beginning with item A, we have, item A is to amend Chapter 531 for noxious weed and the grass ordinance, and it is its second reading. Item B is a sale of land bank property at 421 Fulton Street. Item C is a disposal of fire turnout gear and a donation to EHOE Career Center. And item D is a new liquor permit for beer, bait, and more.
Having heard these ordinances and resolutions and liquor permit application, commissioners, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Murray.
I move for the adoption of all of the consent agenda items A through D, including those that are on first reading and require no second reading, those being A and D, as well as items B and C, which are a resolution and an ordinance that would be approved on pursuant to Section 14 of the City Charter. See, I left my cheat sheet at home for that long motion, and I had to ad lib, but...
You did an excellent job.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. The only comment that I would like to share is the property on Fulton Street that we are selling to the successful bidder. I always feel it necessary or somewhat incumbent on myself anyway to thank people that are willing to do that. They are, I know that we're taking a chance on them. We've got stipulations in there that they've got to spend a certain amount of money, and it's got to be a single family residence and a few other things. but they're really taking a chance on us too. And they are buying this property in what I think is a good neighborhood. And this is so much more preferential than turning this over to Eddie Perdue and knocking it down and growing grass there. So I do want to make a point to thank these individuals for taking a chance on us, and Godspeed. I hope you're successful with it and have a great home. Ms. Briggs, will you call roll on the motion, please?
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
And now on the ordinances, resolutions, and liquor permit application.
Mr.
Yes.
Waddington? Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Those ordinances, resolutions, and notice to the Division of Liquor Control that we do not request a hearing are approved. We'll now turn to our regular agenda. Ms. Briggs, will you present item number 1 on the regular agenda?
President Brady, item number 1 is an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to accept an entitlement grant in the amount of $750,212 total community development block grant funds for the program year of July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, and to submit to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development a fiscal year 2021 one-year action plan, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Murray.
I'd like to thank Ms. Eversole and Mr. Holliday for taking into account the feedback that the public provided at various hearings and some in writing. I think it's a better plan as a result of it, and I thank the public who did provide that feedback.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Twine.
Yes, I'd also like to thank Debbie and John for the work they put into this. There was some great feedback, and I hope that we can continue this on in the years to come as CDB grant funds become available, that the community will participate and give their input. It is, as we well know, the last year has been a challenging one. And I think some of the suggestions for this time were great suggestions that will go a long ways to helping improve the quality of life of our citizens here in Sandusky.
Additional comments, Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I'd like to also add, thanks for the red line on the answers for the questions, and I thought that was good, so I appreciated that. And maybe keep that going next year, or the next time we do this. I like that we had the input and got feedback from it. Thank you.
Additional comments, Commissioners? Ms. Briggs, will you call roll on the motion, please?
Yes, President Brady. Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance?
Mr.
Yes.
Waddington? Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Briggs, you present the next item on the agenda.
Item number 2 is a resolution accepting and approving the City of Sandusky Tax Incentive Review Council's recommendations regarding current taxation agreements and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Commissioners, having heard this resolution, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Twine.
I move for the adoption of this resolution under the suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Second.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Murray.
this year I was the city's representative to the Turk Council, and the staff did an excellent job. Mr. Holliday did an excellent job of summarizing the relevant information tracking to make sure that these recipients of various tax deferrals or abatements were doing what they agreed to do. And I want the public to know that we do track that faithfully. And this report that's attached is a good summary of that. It's not the most scintillating thing to sit through, but it's incredibly important. And appreciate the job that the staff does and that County Auditor Jeffrey does in presenting all that and chairing those meetings. So that's all I wanted to report.
Additional comments, Commissioners? Ms. Spriggs, will you call roll on the motion, please?
Yes, President
Yes.
Brady. Mr. Waddington.
Yes.
Mr. Poole.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes.
Ms. Twine.
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer.
Yes.
And now on the resolution.
Mr. Waddington.
Yes.
Mr. Poole.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes.
Ms. Twine.
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer.
Yes.
That resolution is passed. Ms. Spriggs, will you present item number 3, please?
Yes, President Brady. Item number 3 is an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a purchase agreement for the acquisition of real property located on Superior Street, north of West Monroe Street, Sandusky, and identified as parcel number 59-00439.000 for the Sandusky Bay Pathway, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Mr. Holliday, you and I earlier today had some discussion regarding this, and I wonder if you would somewhat fill in the blanks for us on this specific lot and somewhat where we're going with the whole project, and without providing sensitive detail that we will leave for a future executive session. Perhaps you can just share with us this parcel plays a very small but critical part to our plan.
Certainly, Commissioner Brady, this parcel absolutely does play a part in our ultimate plan. I think everyone's familiar with the vision of the Sandusky Bay Pathway, which is to create a multi-purpose pathway along the roughly 12 miles of shoreline here in the city of Sandusky. This parcel is needed to accommodate the currently planned alignment for the portion of the pathway that would extend from the current western terminus all the way to Lions Park. Sits roughly just south of the existing Board of Health facility. We're seeing some development interest in that neighborhood, and but have fortunately been able to negotiate a fair price with this seller, who at this time is a willing seller. So we'd like to move forward with this acquisition at this time. We are proceeding with acquisitions to accommodate the planned alignment as those opportunities arise. And as you suggested, Commissioner Brady, Director Klein and I will be happy to meet with Commission in executive session at a future meeting to go into detail on where we're at with those acquisitions.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Additional comments or questions, Commissioners? Ms. Spriggs, will you call roll on the motion, please?
Mr. Waddington.
Yes.
Mr. Poole.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes.
Ms. Twine.
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer.
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Waddington.
Yes.
Mr. Poole.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes.
Ms. Twine.
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer.
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Spriggs, will you present the next item on the agenda, please?
Absolutely. Item number 4 is an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into an agreement for professional design services with American Structure Point Incorporated of Cleveland, Ohio, for the Cleveland Road Safety Improvement Project, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Twine.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Briggs, will you call roll on the motion, please?
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Briggs, will you present item number 5, please?
Yes, President Brady. Ordinance number 5, or item number 5 is an ordinance amending ordinance number 21-057, passed on April 12, 2021, authorizing and directing the city manager to purchase a 2022 Freightliner M2 106 cab and chassis truck, including the purchase and upfitting of a HIAB knuckle boom crane from Valley Freightliner, Sterling, and Western Star Incorporated of Parma, Ohio, through the State of Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program for the Water Distribution Division, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Klein, I believe this is a do-over. I think we bought this truck once before, and now we're buying a crane to put on the truck. I presume we got a better deal by doing this.
Yes, sir. Through Mr. President, we originally came to commission a little bit ago to get approval for the vehicle itself. And when the fleet maintenance supervisor started looking at the details of it, he realized that we could get a better price on the crane that was eventually going to be purchased if we just bought everything together. So instead of submitting a second ordinance request from commission, we would just like to amend the previous one so we can get that better deal through the state contract.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Additional comments or questions, commissioners? Ms. Briggs, will you call roll on the motion, please?
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Waddington? Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. That concludes our regular agenda, and we'll turn to our city manager for his report.
Thank you, Commission President Brady, commissioners, staff, and audience. I'll start with the donations. First, a thank you to Sharon Smith, who donated $400 to the Memorial Tree Fund at the Oakland Cemetery. A tree will be planted this fall to honor her late husband, Ezell Bailey Smith. I'd ask for a motion to accept that donation.
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Discussion. Without objection, the motion be approved, and hearing no objection, that motion is approved with our thanks to Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Moving on to finance, the filing deadline for municipal income tax returns has been extended until May 17th. With everyone's health and safety in mind, we offer contact-free ways to easily file and pay your municipal income taxes. Visit ritaohio.com for more information. Rita has extended customer service hours through the May 17th deadline. Please call 1-800-860-7482 with your filing questions. For Public Works, as part of the NPDES permit requirements, the city is required to complete construction of the Mill Street High Rate Treatment Project at the wastewater treatment plant by December 1st, 2024. A request for qualifications is being advertised for design services for that project. This is the final project that the city committed to during the negotiations with the Ohio EPA in 2015. Conversations with the Ohio EPA are anticipated to restart in 2024. It is also the project for which the city purchased the former ANVETS ball field west of the treatment plant. Also, the 2020 water quality report has been distributed. Big Island Water Works continues to meet and exceed all established drinking water standards. Please refer to the city's website for more information. And finally, for Public Works, residents are welcome to drop off yard waste at Barnes Nursery, 1630 Camp Road, Huron, this Saturday, May 5th and Sunday, May 16th. For further details, please call 419-627-5829. And with that, I do just want to say a really hearty thank you to all of those residents, commissioners, staff, volunteers who worked very hard the previous 2 Saturdays for the cleanup efforts throughout the city. I had a chance to participate both this past Saturday at Huron Park and then the previous Saturday at the cleanup of downtown Sandusky, and was really just overwhelmed by the community response and how great the community is looking early this spring. So I want to thank Megan Stuckey from Public Works, Mackenzie Spriggs, the commission clerk, and everyone else who has participated and given their time to make this possible. Spring cleaning went very well in Sandusky and will continue with this event at Barnes, so thank you. And then finally, for community development, congratulations to Bait House Brewery, which reopened on May 5th following extensive renovation that included the construction of a new kitchen. They've added a full-service menu. I had a chance to stop by on the 5th, and it turned out great. The food is great. The project was supported by our city's Economic Development Fund, so please be sure to stop into the Bait House Brewery to enjoy their new menu and fresh look. And then finally, some planning meetings that are scheduled. Arts and Rec, scheduled for Tuesday, May 18th at 5:15. Landmark Commission, Wednesday, May 19th at 5. Board of Zoning Appeals, Thursday, May 20th at 4:30. And the Planning Commission meeting, Wednesday, May 26th at 5 p.m. That concludes my remarks for this evening. I'm happy to take any questions or comments from the commission. Thank you.
Commissioners, questions or comments for the city manager? Well, this is going too easy. Next item on our agenda, items of old business. Any items of old business, commissioners? Come on, seriously?
You want me to make life difficult? I can.
Mr. Murray, I'm so glad you're back. Next item on our agenda, items of new business. Any items of new business, commissioners? Okay. You're giving me the floor, I'll take it. I do have an announcement that was sent out to each commissioner about 4 o'clock this afternoon, so I'm not sure all of you had a chance to read it yet, so I will delve into it at this point in time. We're going to resume in-person public meetings at City Hall, beginning with a City Commission meeting next Monday, or 2 Mondays from now on May the 24th, which is our next meeting. As has been the case throughout our pandemic response, the safety of our community is our top priority, including all of our citizens and staff. All adults in Erie County who want the vaccine now have the opportunity to be vaccinated, and I encourage them to do that. Based on that and recent revised health orders from the Ohio Department of Health, I and our staff feel that we can safely reopen public meetings for in-person, socially distanced attendance. The decision to restore restricted in-person meetings was based on guidance from Centers for Disease Control, Prevention, and the Ohio Department of Health, in accordance with public health orders from the Ohio Department of Public Health. In addition to those 2 organizations, I spent some time texting back and forth with our own director of Erie County Health Department, Pete Shade, who provided me with some guidelines and some guidance in this issue. I'm going to allow Stu to provide some context for this and some specifics. Those specifics are in each of your inboxes. We've also provided them to the press, and we'll get on our social media. But Stu, if you just kind of run through how exactly we're going to pull this off, I'd appreciate it.
Yep. Through you, Commission President, as you so well articulated, we're opening this up based on revised guidelines from the CDC and the Health Department. We will be restricting capacity in this room to 25% of capacity, which will be about 20 people per meeting. The The seating order, when we open the meetings up, will be commission, board members, and people who participate at the meeting, be it a hearing or presenting at the meeting. Staff will be strongly encouraged to keep participating virtually, leaving as many seats for the public open as possible. The public will then be allowed to participate in person on a first-come, first-served basis. So once we hit capacity, unfortunately, that will be the last person who will be able to come into the meeting. The chairs will have to stay 6 feet apart to maintain social distancing for these meetings. At that point, public comment will be able to be taken in person per the agenda of the board or the commission, but it can still be done via electronic means, phones, emails prior to the meetings. That will be listed in the relevant agendas. And of course, we will continue to stream the meetings live on YouTube, so people who cannot attend will still be able to watch it live. The reason we're doing May 24th is that will give time staff to get processes in order, get staff trained up, make sure everyone is doing stuff consistently. So we look forward to welcoming the public back in the next commission meeting.
Questions, commissioners, for Stu?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Murray.
is it anticipated that Mr. Webster would regularly be here with us as well? I realize that we're encouraging staff to allow the space, but I would have a preference to be able to see Mr. Webster and read his body language. Sometimes it's important. To me, it is. I'm sorry. I don't mean it. That's how I read people a lot, is just to see how they're moving, what they're looking like.
Weight loss.
I agree, Mr. Murray. I think it's important to have the city manager here with us in person. To be clear, Stu, we are limiting the capacity of this room to 20 people. That is inclusive of commissioners that show
correct.
up.
Yes.
So that's going to be a moving. The public is going to be a moving target anyway.
Yes.
But I would think that it does make sense, unless there is some objection from commission. I think it does make sense to ask Mr. Webster to be here in person. And I agree with you. It just there's a connection there that's lost via the internet.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Waddington.
It's been a long, long time, and I've attended all the way, and a few other commissioners have also. We stayed socially distanced and wore our mask and that, but I think it's well past the time. I know I've had a conversation with you and some of the other commissioners. When are we going to reopen? I'm glad that we got this benchmarked, and it's going to be in 2 weeks. I think it's important to get feedback from the residents, and then also get back to somewhat of a norm here with having the lot lighter in weight city manager, Mr. Webster. What's the weight loss, 25?
Oh, getting there, slowly but surely. But I'm happy to be there in person and really looking forward to it myself. So thank you for the suggestion, and really looking forward to getting back in front of the commission on a regular basis.
I want to be clear, this is not a requirement, this is not a mandate to our fellow commissioners that they must attend, nothing of the sort. The guidance from the governor, from the state, is that virtual meetings may continue to take place up until June 30th, I believe. So if any commissioner is concerned about being here in person, can still attend virtually and vote virtually. And that's going to be a personal decision by commission. And we would just ask, I would ask that the commission clerk be notified perhaps a day in advance of commissioners that are going to attend in person, so we can kind of figure out the seating structure. We're pretty good right now with 5. If we get our last 2 fellow commissioners, we'll spread them out. We'll spread them out here, and then we'll work off that number 20.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Poole.
may I suggest that for working with that number 20, that other than the city manager, staff doesn't have to be here. I don't expect that it'll be a problem in terms of visitors. I see no reason for staff to be here and visitors being turned away.
I agree, and I think staff is going to be virtual. We're not going to displace a resident from being here to put a staff in place, unless, of course, the staff is playing a key role, like keeping us
correct.
online, something like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
No,
And
I
first
think we're all in
come, first
agreement on that.
First come, first serve for citizens in the event. I don't expect there to be too many people here, but we may have to, if nothing else, sit people out in the hallway or something.
Agree
But
100%.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Stu. And thanks to staff for putting this together. These are not easy issues to navigate through. And I do want to hold out the possibility that things can change too. We painfully find that out in many places as this, we are not declaring this pandemic over. We are just saying that, as Mr. Waddington put it, perhaps now it's time to put our toe back in the water. And we're going to do that by opening up again. Excellent. Mr. Briggs, are there any communication from residents regarding city business to be read?
Yes, President Brady, I have several tonight. The first comes from Matt Ames of 2204 Mill Street and Jennifer Ashburn of 1513 North Forest Drive, both in Sandusky. He says, greetings. My name is Matt Ames, and I'm a member of the Sandusky Homeowners Association, along with Jennifer Ashburn. In our meeting on April 24th, we discussed the desire to have city meetings open back up to the public. We have taken note that surrounding municipalities, including Perkins Township, Huron, and Erie County, have done so, utilizing state guidelines provided by the CDC, and respectfully ask that our city government do the same as soon as possible. We feel strongly that the health and strength of democracy in city government is predicated on public participation. The city's homeowners feel it is essential to assemble and speak in public meeting spaces where decisions are being made on our behalf. We would like to emphasize to our city leadership that there is a plurality of our homeowners who are retired, elderly, and/or are on financial assistance. Many do not have access to the internet, let alone own a computer, which makes attending a Zoom meeting difficult, if not impossible. Having stated this, we do, however, feel that continuing to archive public meetings on digital platforms such as YouTube are in the best interest of the community and should be maintained. We offer scientific data to you that states that only 0.26% of the national population outside of nursing homes has succumbed to this virus, giving a survival rate of 99.7%. We are aware that those over 70 and those with comorbidities shall continue to be cautious and may not be recommended to attend public meetings at this time. For the rest of us, we must get back to the business of the people by inviting them back. Though we ultimately desire a full return to in-person public meetings without restriction, at this time we humbly recommend that, number one, public meetings are open to residents ahead of the next scheduled commission meeting. 2, CDC guidelines be in place that recommend proper distancing and masks. 3, restroom facilities be open and available for proper hygiene maintenance. 4, reservations by the public be made ahead of time or ahead of planned meeting times. A phone call or email notifications should suffice. This will help regulate and ensure adherence to state and CDC guidelines. And 5, subsequently, as soon as state mandates are further relaxed and ultimately wane, we ask that the city leadership follow suit and fully return to normal proceedings at the first available opportunity to do so. Thank you for your attention to this important matter by the Sandusky Homeowners Association. I have another lengthy one from Miss Julie Fulton of 314 Fulton Street in Sandusky. She has 4 points. Number 1, constant firework explosions. Beginning now and continuing throughout the summer, well past Labor Day, fireworks are set off in neighborhoods around or throughout the city. Even though multiple calls were reported to the police department last year, there's only so much they can do. More restrictions are needed. If the only way to control illegal fireworks is to catch the users in the act, the policy relies on the impossible ability of citizens and police to be everywhere at once. Other towns seem to have a better handle on this. Perhaps there can be a discussion with a public meeting to receive input. Perhaps policy should be redirected around the purchase and acquisition of fireworks for public use rather than trying to control their use once teens and younger people have them at their disposal. It is unsuitable to endure this constant disruption night and day for months on end. It doesn't only occur on the 4th of July. Number 2, beautification. Is there a reason why porta pots are front and center in public park areas? How does the city determine where these are placed? I frequently walk in the parks and also watch the sunrise at the back of the police station, one of the few areas to get a view of the waterfront where there is a public access to see this daily phenomenon. This week, when I went to my usual parking area there, lo and behold, a public toilet was in the front parking spot. Can't see the sunrise if a toilet is in the way. Seems like a total disregard to the beauty of the natural resource we have here in Sandusky. The park downtown also has a portable toilet basically sitting on the street. Is this really necessary? If people have to use some public area for a restroom, could it at least be more discreet? It de-emphasizes the beauty of the parks. Number 3, litter. How can we enforce a more accountable littering policy? All along main streets, and especially once you go out of the downtown area block or 2, the trash and litter are everywhere, including the public city dock. It's really disheartening. It's as if Sanduskians care nothing for their living environment or this city. There are the streets a block or 2 from our most valuable resource, Lake Erie. If we are spending millions on waterfront improvements, it seems there must be some answer to keeping the streets, sidewalks, and unkept lawns clean for our citizens that live here. Sandusky is not only downtown tourism. 4, trees. Why are old and graceful trees destroyed and often not replaced even in the park? Again, shady streets and parks and the resource of beautiful trees seem lost on the city of Sandusky. In quotes, Tree City, question mark? I think not. It is strange that there are benches around the city fountain that have no shade to sit and look at this landmark. 50-year-old trees can't be replaced. It's a resource that seems we should cherish rather than tear down. It's too late now, I realize this, but it seems that everywhere I go, side streets and main streets, trees are being removed. Adams Junior High, the courthouse, is now basically just a lawn. There are not even shrubs or flowers around the entryways, only mulch. Can more trees be planted? The city has focused on creating a downtown that is a destination spot. It is appreciated and was sorely needed. But lifelong residents such as myself see changes that don't necessarily add up to a better city environment. Often these subtle changes are a lifestyle perspective. Lastly, Tim Schwanger from 362 Sheffield Way in Sandusky said, after spending $10 million on Shoreline Drive, including widening sidewalks on the south side for improved walkability, why would the City Planning Commission and city staff allow a Water Street restaurant business to encroach into the Shoreline Drive sidewalk, taking away 3/4 of the walkable sidewalk? This opens the door for all Shoreline Drive South Side businesses to do the same.
Ms. Briggs, I believe that your job is going to get an awfully lot easier with open meetings returning in 2 weeks. You will no longer have to read those questions. Hopefully those people can be standing at a podium and delivering that message to us in person, some of them anyway. I will handle the very first question, Mr. Ames and Ms. Ashburn. I think we've handled that issue. We are returning to open meetings, and I think that is what the desire of they and many of our residents are. So that is the direction we're going. The additional items, the additional questions, perhaps those can be divided up, Mr. Webster, to the appropriate staff and answers provided for them. I would like to, because we did have a discussion this afternoon regarding Mr. Schwanger's comment, I think that's an easy question to dispose of. I know the answer to that, but I think it provides a lot more credibility if it comes from either Mr. Holliday or Mr. Webster.
Sure. Through the commission president, I can speak quickly to the Shoreline Drive sidewalks and Hot Dog Tony's new patio. And that is to say that if you remember all the way back to the planning process for the Jackson Street Pier, it was made very clear that increased patio dining and deck dining was one of the ultimate goals of the plan. One of the things that we heard from the public was that Shoreline Drive felt like it was the back of the house or the back door to the city, and we really wanted it to feel like the front door of the city and to take advantage of the waterfront views, et cetera. So when we redesigned the Shoreline Drive area, we were very clear on the north side of the street to include a very wide, unencumbered portion of pedestrian right-of-way, which includes 5 feet sidewalks and 10 feet for the pathway, or 15 feet. And when we widened the sidewalks on the south side, we wanted to make sure that we left at least 5 feet for pedestrians at all times, but we did want room for big patios and decks for the various businesses to bring that area to life and to activate it and to make us feel like more of a waterfront city. So Hot Dog Tony's is actually doing what we were hoping private businesses would do and will continue to do, which is to activate that public right-of-way, which will make for a more vibrant waterfront. But remember, at all times, we've got that 15 feet unencumbered on the north side, which is where most people are choosing to walk so they can take advantage of those views. And there will always be 5 feet on that south side as well for those who are doing business or walking on the south side of the street. So we'll continue to monitor that. But again, this was part of the design of the project. At one point, if commissioners remember, we had thought about a boardwalk that was elevated for the entire length of those 2 blocks. We pulled back from that because of the logistical difficulties, but these case-by-case patios and decks that you will see were always intended and hoped for with the completion of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Mr. Webster, will you assure us that you will divide Ms. Fulton's 4-part question to the appropriate staff? I think there's some in there for engineering, some for our tree people, and certainly some for the police department.
Absolutely, and through the commission president, we take those quality of life concerns very seriously. So each department will take a look at that and we'll reply back and do our best. I do think we are making progress in some of the areas she mentioned. Some are more difficult, such as the fireworks, but absolutely we'll get those questions answered. We'll return them back, and if need be, we'll pay even closer attention to some of those issues so we can resolve things that might be possible where we can make improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. There's a point that I want to reiterate, and it occurred to me during the reading of these public comments, and that is that in spite of us returning to open meetings, these aren't going to go away. The public are the ones that are fortunate enough to, or ill fortunate enough to end up in the room with us, will be able to speak at the podium. Those that are not in the room with us can still, and we encourage them to send us your questions by email or by letter, by postal. They will all get in. They will all get read and they will all get answered. So we're not, because we're returning to open meetings doesn't mean we're limiting to the 10 or 12 people that are here asking questions. Everybody in the city will have an opportunity to answer and ask and get answered any question that they present.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Poole.
On the last question that the staff is going to get back to to answer, would you see that all the commissioners get a copy of those answers? I think questions that are asked at of the public, that we should at least know what we've told the public.
Good policy. Yep, absolutely. That's excellent. I know that we probably have not been doing that, but that's a good policy to start.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Murray.
It's just interesting. I mean, the public comment is a long, old, and cherished tradition in Sandusky city government. But if you look just a little ways to the east, Cleveland is having a debate about finally allowing public comment in this meeting. So we've been ahead of the curve for a long time.
And hopefully stay there.
Yep.
Thanks. Commissioners, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.